Good morning, PASW clients, staff, and friends joining us. Welcome to Wednesday's class. I didn't mean to frighten everyone so early in the morning or late at night. That is a terrifying score. That is a score that's famous, one that we've talked about a lot, and that is a soundtrack to Alfred Hitchcock's movie Psycho. Psycho was composed by a very famous film composer, one of the most famous, not John Williams, Bernard Herrmann. And Bernard Herrmann and Hitchcock had a very long collaboration together until they had a falling out, which was later. So I do want to today talk about the music in Psycho, and let's try to figure out what makes it so creepy and scary, and why to this day it still remains one of the best horror soundtracks of all time. But first, you guessed it, let's do a little digging on this composer, of his upbringing and how he got to compose Psycho. Bernard Herrmann was born in New York City in 1911, and he was trained at Juilliard School, which we talk about every class, I feel like, which is great. Classically trained composer, and before he teamed up with Alfred Hitchcock, the great English director, he worked a lot with Orson Welles. Orson Welles is somebody we're going to talk about pretty soon in a future class, and Orson Welles is a famous writer-director, and we'll get into him later. But he would write and direct stuff, and Bernard Herrmann would compose for these, a lot of radio plays back in the day, radio dramas before televisions were really in everyone's living room. So we cut to 1960, Psycho's released, and initially Bernard Herrmann didn't want to do the score because Hitchcock wasn't offering him enough money, or the studio wasn't offering Hitchcock to offer him enough money, and he didn't want to do it. But luckily Hitchcock insisted, and but because there was kind of a low budget, he only scored the whole soundtrack for Psycho for strings, and which is interesting because we think of strings as soft sounding, soothing instruments at times. When we think of, Lovely Waltzes by Tchaikovsky, or String Serenades by Dvorak. But here, the strings are terrifying. Why are they terrifying? Well, one of Bernard Herrmann's musical characteristics that he's really great at is his use of repetitive rhythms. We call them ostinati, but let's just say repetitive rhythms for now, which is that dum 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 dum. So that's a repetitive rhythm, right? We know what a rhythm is. We know what repetition means. The same thing over and over. Or it sounds like it's over and over. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but it still has that pulse. Let's take a look at the opening credits. Not only are they very cool looking with all these kind of wavy lines, but it gets you immediately in the mood for something very scary, even though really nothing happens the first 20 minutes of the movie. And, without the score, it's just kind of a woman wandering, right? So, opening titles. So it's pretty cool. Is that it's all strings. Remember with the Beatles, She's Leaving Home. It was all small orchestral ensemble, no rock instruments. Well, with a suspenseful movie, you would think that uh, big brass instruments, trombones, tubas, loud, would be in timpanis, would be a very effective way, and it can be many times, and it has been. I mean, John Williams uses the full orchestra in a brilliant capacity. Here, Bernard Herrmann's got a condensed string orchestra, so he's only working with strings, and he's making them sound like they don't want to be strings, or at least to me. The violin doesn't want to be a soothing violin. Um, it wants to be a hard violin, or vice versa. It doesn't want to be a hard violin. It wants to do this, but Bernard Herrmann is forcing them to do dum 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 dum, and we feel that level of discomfort. The audience does, the players do probably. It's there's something psychologically terrifying about it. I don't really know why. We'll never know why. It's not really important. It's very cool that music can really make us feel something like that when really visually at this point in the movie we're not seeing anything, right? Let's cut to a scene when she's driving in the car, and I'm gonna do what many people have done before. I'm gonna show it without the music first, and then we're gonna show it with the music. And I happen to think the music makes it creepier, but I don't know. Let's see what you think. What did you think? Comment below. Tell me what you thought, which version was scarier, and why. There's no right or wrong answer, as we always talk about. But the first one's just a lady. I mean, she's got that. Janet Leigh has that great face on her. But it's interesting because obviously we know when Hitchcock was directing her in that scene, he was probably just saying okay, well look scared, look suspenseful, and neither of them had any idea what the music was going to be because they were shooting it and it wasn't written yet, obviously. And so it's kind of interesting to be like, okay, well let's go shoot this scene in my car, and I'm going to film you and look scared, and probably you and the director would be like, okay, like this could be really silly. This could end up being a comedic scene instead. But in fact, just a little music makes it completely terrifying. And again, it's not showing you anything scary, anything violent. It doesn't have any lyrics. There's nothing that tells you anything. It's just a woman driving and these strings that are just relentless. Film music and classical music can be terrifying and exciting, um, without having any lyrics, without necessarily saying anything. We'll talk more about Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann. There's several other scores that are amazing. I know John Paces loves the Vertigo soundtrack, as do I, and so we can talk about that next time. Yeah, well, we're going to talk more about film composers, not just classical composers. There's so much fun stuff that we're going to share and talk about together with. So um, even though this was a very scary class, I hope everyone is well and safe, and miss you so much. Love you guys. Everyone at the studio and everyone watching. Thank you so much for being such a great audience. And again, you can always comment below this and let me know what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you're confused about, maybe what it reminds you of. I'm so miss, and I know I'm not the only staff person, miss the interaction of being with you guys, because it's so wonderful hearing your thoughts and picking your imaginations and your brain. So I do miss that. So I should have said that a long time ago. But if you ever want to talk to me, or comment below, we can have a virtual discussion. So okay, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.